Hey, and welcome to another video on SINEE Global. Today we're going to take a look at drums, and specifically drums that are tailor-made for raw and hypnotic techno, because the real star of the show in this genre are the atmospheres, textures, and synths, I would say, the stuff that happens around the drums. But nevertheless, you need a solid foundation that lets these elements shine and also works in the club. Let's dive in. Of course, we're going to start with a kick drum, and for this I'm going to use two of our own plugins, and the first one is called Chop Suey. The raw concept of it is we have a kick drum that's divided into three different sections. So we have the transient section, we have a body and a tail, and for each of these sections you can choose different samples. You can load in your own samples, or you can use the factory content. So if I go into this list, you can see we have these folders here. Of course, you can choose between many different presets as well. For the purpose of today's tutorial, I'm going to choose a simple 909-ish kick drum consisting of a transient, a body, and a tail from an 808, which is quite short. Let's listen to what it does. And I have the transient pretty low in the mix. I can always turn it up later if I want to. And you can see the display reacts in real time and shows your waveform. I also have a little bit of filtering going on here. We have a filter section and a beef section, which is an internal overdrive saturation circuit. And then I have another plugin engaged here, which is called Kickzilla. It's also from SINEE, and this is a rumble machine. So you have your threshold on the left side, and you can already hear what it does. You have an envelope, then we have a filter over here. You can choose to have it in 24 dB or 12 dB, so 2 poles versus 4 poles. I chose the 4 poles option. And then we have an EQ at the end of the chain just to take out the muddiness and the frequencies we don't want. Also a very nice distortion. You can choose to have it pre-reverb, pre-filter, or post-filter. Today I use the pre-filter option, and you can check the amount here. Let's listen to a few adjustments. And also let's overdo a little bit just so you can hear what the plugin does. That's obviously way too much, but let's start it down to somewhere around here. That's fine. And last but not least, I have an EQ just to take out even more of the low mid content and to push a little bit around 55 Hertz. Solid low end, but doesn't really groove yet. So we're gonna take care of this with the next track, and this is this ghost track. I just duplicated my kick drum, but made it way shorter, so we don't have interference in the low frequencies. And let's listen to both of them together. And the pattern looks like this. Next up, we have our low Percs, and for this one I'm using a Max for Live plugin called Opal. Opal is a 4-part synthesizer, drum machine thingy. The sound I've built for today is a low percussion sound because I wanted something to fill out the low end of the spectrum even more, and it sounds like this. There's only one note going on, it's the first offbeat. And then I have a delay over here, a sidechain plugin, and some bit reduction. Let's have a look at the delay first. It's just dotted 8 notes and quiet in the background. Then I have my sidechain plugin. I use this one from Cable Guys because it just works. And lastly, I wanted to beef up the sound a little more, so I pulled in a instance of Decimor 2 from D16. Of course, you can use whatever you have at your disposal. It's just a bit crusher and I have it on the MPC 60 preset here. Gives the overall sound a little bit more presence. So for my super lows, I am pretty happy with this already. Let's move on to the mid percussion. This is a sample of a snare. And the pattern looks like this. I just used a little bit of the randomize feature on the velocity here. So now that we have our lows and our mid-range covered, let's move on to one of the most important factors, which are the hi-hats and high frequencies. First up, I have a closed head going on, and I sequenced this one with a Max for Live plugin called Snake. The cool thing about sequencing your hi-hats instead of drawing them in by hand is you can always stumble upon happy accidents along the way. And especially a sequencer like Snake is very helpful for this because you can play around with the shapes afterwards. So my notes are all on the same note, obviously, to trigger the sample. Then my gates are just simple 16ths, and I have a little bit of swing here. And the velocities is where the fun comes in, because the velocities are responsible for the swing and the overall feel of my hi-hat track. Let's have a listen. By the way, this is just a simple 909 sample from a closed hi-hat. Now I can change these shapes. And you can hear that the groove is changing. Let's have a listen in context. When it comes to processing the heads, I have an instance of Pro Q here, and I just took out a little bit of these nasty frequencies in the upper range. After that, Ableton's reverb, very, very low in the mix, 9.5%, and you can see my settings here. And then I have an instance of Soothe, just to tame it even more, because it's easy to get the picture that the head sounds nice when you listen to them solo, but if you listen in context, a lot of the times, in my productions at least, I realize when I listen to them solo that the high frequency content is a little bit overbearing. So don't worry if they sound a little bit dull right now, because we're going to do even more processing down the line on the whole drum group. By the way, a very overlooked feature in Ableton Simpler is that you have the ability to internally modulate your samples. So I have the LFO engaged here. It's relatively slow. And for destinations, I chose the volume and the panning, both very, very low. But over time, it makes a difference because you can't really put your thumb on it, but something is changing and evolving over time. And that's what we want. So whenever you see me using a simpler instrument, just assume I have something going on in the internal modulation section. Next up, I wanted a little bit of an accent on the closed head. So I put in another head. This one lives a little bit higher in the frequency spectrum. Then I have a reverb and an EQ. EQ again, just to tame the resonances. Let's have a listen to the other closed head and kick drum. And we're not done with heads yet, because we always need something to put on top of the loop to create a little bit more energy when our track is evolving. So the next thing would be a shaker, and without any effects, it sounds like this. Just a simple 16th loop, a little bit of randomizing of velocities. But of course, that doesn't sound like a shaker yet, so let's engage this vocoder chain. That's better. And you can see I have 3 LFOs here. The first one is going to the release time of my vocoder. The second one is mapped to the depth of LFO 1. And the third one goes to the Foreman shift amount. I'm sure most of you know the vocoder trick on hi-hats. There are many videos online for this, but the gist of it is that you put your sample into the vocoder, and if you choose the noise option here, you can mix in noise and have evolving hi-hats, even if your sample is at a fixed length. Next, I took an auto filter just to pull out some of the super low frequencies. I have a little bit of glue compression going on, not that much really, just to tame the spikes a little bit. And then I have an instance of Devaster, which is a multiband distortion unit, and I always experiment with different kinds of distortion and saturation, especially on hi-hats, because whenever you think, okay, my hi-hats sound too forward in the mix or they're too resonancy, just try out several kinds of distortion and saturation and see what they do, because more often than not, that's the solution to your problem. And of course, you can always EQ afterwards if you need to, but in my experience, overdrive and saturation is the solution to the problem 99% of the time. Next up, we have even more closed hats. This time it's a very simple 8th pattern. Looks like this. This is also one of the most untouched samples in this rack, because I just took out a little bit of the low frequencies around 230. Then we have an open hat, and I chose not to use a every offbeat open hat because in my opinion that can sometimes get a little bit annoying. I mean, it really depends on what you want to achieve, but my favorite thing is to use maybe 1 or 2 open hats and then treat them with further effects. And the effect is, in my opinion, just as nice as having a slamming 909 open hat. Sounds like this. And I just have a little bit of this Haas effect. So Haas is a psychoacoustic effect, and it just changes a little bit of your perception where in the stereo field your hi-hat is. And last but not least, we have a track which is called Noise. I used this instead of a right cymbal, but as you can see here, we have another right cymbal after the drum chain. If you reach the point in your track where you just need more energy, we have this cymbal available to us. But the noise fills out the frequency spectrum in the high end very nicely and isn't that harsh and overbearing. Let's have a listen. And my chain consists of just an EQ8 to really narrow it down. A little bit of reverb, a glue compressor, sidechaining to a kick drum, and that's pretty much it. I also have a little bit of room reverb and delay. So now I'm gonna engage track after track and we're gonna listen to the whole thing, and then I'm gonna show you a little bit of bus processing. Let's start with the kick. So the processing is relatively straightforward, just a compressor, an EQ, and saturation. Let's start with the compressor. I really love the Distressor plugin for drums because you can have it slamming everything down to maximum and then just dial back the mix. But for today, we're getting away with having the mix all the way up, and I just have the input raised a little bit and the output pulled down. Ratio is 6:1. Let's have a listen. really brings out some of the more mid to high frequencies in the mix. Next up, we have an EQ. I took out the mud at 250 and then some other frequencies that annoy me a little bit and slightly boosted around 51 hertz. This is without. And that's with. And lastly, we have a Sound Toys Decapitator, one of my favorite saturation and distortion plugins. Moderate settings. I have the drive at around halfway between 2 and 3. The tone is a little bit darkened and the output is a little bit pulled down just to have it level matched to the original. Let's have a listen. And without. And with. So it's subtle, but it does make a difference, especially when you're listening to this on bigger sound systems. So that's pretty much it. Let's have a listen to the drum bus in context with other sounds. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this useful. Make sure to check out our website, sine.de, and I'm gonna see you soon. Take care.